Welcome to Stephen AI TV, the Emerald Cast.
It sounds a bit like a riddle, doesn't it? But honestly, the answer shows us just how incredibly fragile our whole interconnected world really is. A crisis that's happening thousands of miles away can have a direct, and I mean direct, impact on the stuff we see and buy right here at home.
So, for our lead story on the Emerald Cast, we're diving into a crisis unfolding in the Middle East that's sending, well, shockwaves straight into the heart of Irish business, and it's putting billions in trade at risk.
People on the inside are calling it the export blackout. And I want you to pay attention to that term on the screen, cardiac arrest. That's not just a slowdown, It's a sudden, critical stop to the flow of goods. It's like the lifeblood of commerce just stopped pumping.
And the epicenter of this whole blackout? It's right here, the Strait of Hormuz. We're talking about a tiny, 21-mile-wide stretch of water that is one of the most important shipping lanes on the entire planet. And right now, because of drones, mines, and missiles, it's basically a no-go zone.
And to put that into perspective, shipping traffic through that strait has dropped by over 95%. Just let that sink in for a second. 1,000 vessels are just sitting there at anchor, completely paralyzed. This is a logistical nightmare on a truly global scale.
And business leaders, well, they're not mincing their words. They're describing this as a grenade. A sudden, chaotic explosion that's just ripped through everything, forcing our exporters to completely rethink how they even get their products to market.
Look, this isn't some abstract problem for a spreadsheet. Just listen to Tom Keogh, the managing director of Keogh's Crisps. He is on the absolute front line of this, watching his products, which are supposed to be heading to the UAE, get sent on these massive, unbelievably expensive detours.
So this lays out the brutal new reality. What used to be a straight shot, an efficient route to places like the UAE, has turned into this chaotic mess, rerouting all the way through India. And the cost? Tom Keogh says the price to ship a single container has pretty much doubled.
And all this logistical chaos, well, it was always going to lead to a financial crunch, right? The secondary impact of this paralysis is hitting Irish businesses right where it hurts the most, their bottom line.
We're already looking at projections of a 10 to 15% jump in energy and transport costs. Now, for a business that's already working on razor-thin margins, a spike like this isn't just an inconvenience, it's an existential threat.
And that's exactly what we're hearing from business owners on the ground. This isn't some cost they can just absorb. They're saying it flat out. These new expenses are cutting straight into any profit they might have had.
The chain reaction is painfully simple. First, the shipping lines tack on fuel surcharges to cover their own new costs. Then, for Irish businesses, the overheads just become crippling. And the last step? Any profit they had is just gone, wiped out.
So if we zoom out a bit, this crisis does way more than just hurt individual companies. What it really does is expose just how vulnerable Ireland is, caught in this incredibly tangled web of global trade.
And it's not just about getting our goods out. It's also about getting things in. Importers are really feeling the squeeze. We're seeing critical equipment shortages, and containers packed with essential goods are getting stranded in regional ports like Jordan, completely unable to move.
And here's the thing you really need to get. There's a delay. Analysts are warning us that even if all the attacks stopped tomorrow, it would still take 10 days, maybe 2 weeks, for the full impact to snake its way through the supply chain and really hit home here in Ireland. So the worst might actually still be on its way.
All of which brings us to a very direct, very local consequence of this whole crisis. And it takes us right back to where we started.
Remember those crisps? Well, reports are now coming in from Dubai of actual panic buying. With the supply chain totally broken, people are clearing the shelves of Irish products. The demand is there, it's huge, but our ability to actually supply it has been completely cut off.
And finally, for our flash update, we have to look at the biggest risk of all. Because this isn't just an Irish problem. No, this has the potential to become a global economic tsunami.
This chart just lays it out with brutal simplicity. You see that red slice? That represents 1/5 of the entire world's oil supply, 20%, and all of it is currently caught in the crossfire of this conflict.
So the final analysis from all of this is pretty much unavoidable, and it is stark. If the blockade of the Strait of Hormuz continues, the economic shock that follows will almost certainly trigger a global recession.
Which leaves us with a really unsettling question, doesn't it?
This whole crisis has laid bare a massive vulnerability in a system that we all completely depend on. If one 21-mile stretch of water can cause this much damage, what choke point is next? And that's the latest from Stephen AI TV, the Emerald Cast.